right. Thank everyone for joining us. This is the, fourth or fifth episode of The Adventures of Mattman and Romo.
I'm not even sure. It's around there depending on if I cut the long ones into two or not, which I probably won't do. So this is probably the fourth?
Probably the fourth. Yeah, somewhere around there. It's been a few weeks. Yeah. We had the holiday season.
It's been a while. December has been not the best month for recording. So, yeah. So let's say fourth. And if I'm wrong, no one else cares. So,
honestly, we probably spent longer on this than it was worth.
Yeah.
But anyway, we are joining you today. We're not really sure where we're going quite yet. We have a couple of thoughts to share, and one of the things that stuck out to me recently was there is a new Ninja Turtles movie coming out next summer of 23 called Mutant Mayhem. And I think part of me is really excited about it. Old school Turtles fan. I was born in 85, so like that was the first, other than Godzilla, that was like the first kind of new thing. Or well, Godzilla wasn't new at the time, but
in your life,
in my life, like it was kind of new. And one of my first real obsessions as a kid was Ninja Turtles. I still remember going to Ames department stores back in the day.
Ames, right? That's where I found my first Michael Keaton Batman figure.
My goodness.
Yeah, my mom. Okay, so sidetrack. Go figure. When the Batman '89 came out, you couldn't find the Batman figures anywhere. I knew they existed because my friend's dad bought him one. It's the only one I had seen. I was obsessed with it. So my mom, before she went nuts in my later years, my mom would, when I came home from school, she would call like Buffalo to see if they had Batman figures. They always told her yes. So she would drive me to Buffalo to go shop for one figure to try. She was the best.
That's awesome.
The best. And they never had it. They had figures. They had the Joker. They had like Bob, his henchman, but they never had Batman. And it was the hardest thing to get. And my friend, I was so obsessed with it. I don't know if I ever told you this. I was so obsessed with getting this figure that I had a dream that my friend found it. My friend Ryan found it and hid it for me at Ames. I don't think it was the next day, but very soon after that, my friend Ryan, I'm in bed. He calls me. He said, "Ron, I found Batman. It's at Ames." He found it at Ames. He hid it for me. And that's how I got my first Michael Keaton 89 Batman figure.
That's awesome.
We went to Buffalo probably 6-7 times. So about a 45-minute drive for those of you that don't know that we're right between Buffalo and Rochester. My mom would do that for me. She was the best.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so that was my
parents. I have a couple stories like that myself, which maybe we'll get to if we get into some Power Rangers stuff. But yeah, Ames department stores, for those who are wondering what it was.
It was Kmart, right?
It was like a Kmart or a Walmart.
It was
before there was
Walmart.
Before there was Walmart in this
area. It was another Kmart. It was basically another Kmart.
Yes. And even I remember we didn't get our first Walmart around here. Like I remember the first ones being in like Rochester area and Buffalo, but like we didn't get them around in our area right away at all. But no, Ames, like I still remember, a Ninja Turtle figure back then was, $3.96.
Yeah.
And,
remember
just
Zaire's?
Yeah.
That's where I got my Ninja Turtle figures.
Yeah. That was right over,
Zaire's
right up the road.
Yeah. That's where I got my first Ninja Turtle figures.
Yep, I do remember Zaire's barely. It turned into an Ames before it closed down completely. Yeah. Now it's like Department of Social Services over there. Now that's that building.
Yeah, what's not nowadays?
Yeah,
what's not some sort of social program? But that's not helping.
Yeah, but true. That's a whole other podcast.
A whole other podcast. It's getting so bad.
But we, just growing up with the Turtles, and I loved the colors. I had the cartoon, the movie, just the colorful characters, the mutants, all that stuff. And I want to be super excited for this new one. The art style for those of you who may have seen it out there, it does look, pretty cartoony, pretty,
I haven't. Is it CGI?
It is going to be CG.
Okay.
Let me
ask you this: is it like like a Toy Story type CGI, or is it the newer CGI where you can tell it's CGI, but they're trying to make it look like animation?
It's definitely stylized, and it has more of an animation look to it. I'm trying to find the photos of them.
Really popular now. Batman,
so it's got a very. I just pulled up a photograph of it. It's got kind of a very childlike appeal to it.
I don't know.
I'm
looking at a birthday card right now. That's what I'm feeling.
Right.
I'm feeling 6-year-old birthday card image.
I think it's definitely
I'm not happy. Yeah.
Geared towards the under 10 crowd.
90s cartoon.
Yeah.
The 90s cartoon, basically, that's what I would see at that. And maybe even look at Raph. Raph looks like he's 4 years old.
Yes.
Not Raph, I'm sorry, Michael.
Yeah.
Michelangelo. Yeah, Michelangelo.
Yeah, no, it does look...
He looks like he's 4 years old.
Very stylized.
I wonder which one's going to have a breast implant.
Oh, boy.
They got to throw that in there, right? It's got to be. Or it's racist.
Yes.
You definitely need... You need transgender or it's racist. How does that make sense? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not sure how they're going to end up on that. Although...
Let's have a vote. Let's say who's going to get boobs. Which one of the turtles, guys?
Splinter.
Which one of the turtles is getting the operation? Who's coming out?
It definitely has like a very. I think it could be charming if done well, though.
I think anything could be charming if done well.
Right.
It's not gonna.
Okay, so that brings me to my next point.
To the point
is that I want to be excited for it, but I immediately saw the name Seth Rogan attached. And I mean, there's probably not many folks in Hollywood that I shouldn't say not many. There's definitely a good solid couple of handfuls of people that I will turn tail and run from. But Seth Rogen's definitely among them. I find him to be one of the least funny people I can possibly imagine. Like,
I used to love Seth Rogen.
Really?
I used to love all those. Okay. But this is old. I'm talking like 40-year-old virgin.
Okay.
I loved any cast member in 40-year-old virgin.
Sure.
I loved all of them.
Okay.
Right. And over the years, Seth has become quite the annoyance. I'm not a fan of his anymore, but old stuff, I did find him adorable.
Okay.
I did.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Well, he was in Knocked Up too with Katherine Heigl from.
That was one of those ones they just threw in there because he needed to do like 6 films in a year. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it wasn't that great, but it was okay.
Yeah, I've seen like a few of those, but I just there's something to me that's grating about him. Like,
it is now.
And then, I know he did like Sausage Party and stuff like that.
I don't see that's past my Seth Rogen face. Yeah, I can't do anything with that.
It was an animated film. It was supposed to be incredibly vulgar, and it was basically just one big innuendo, the whole thing. And
I don't understand.
I don't.
What's so funny about that? There's
nothing.
It
really wasn't funny. Like, it was just dirty, and I saw that. I have very little trust in him that he can handle, and people will probably say to me, well, he's a fan of the Turtles. Yeah, who wasn't? It doesn't mean you're going to actually, doesn't mean you're actually going to do a good job.
Yeah.
So
once you sign, it doesn't matter what you love. You could love your own mother. Once you sign a contract in Hollywood, it's over.
Right.
It's over.
And even then,
it's not yours anymore.
I know plenty of people who are super fans of stuff and they still have terrible ideas. It's not, it doesn't mean, he's going to actually produce something quality.
Todd McFarlane's a super fan of Spawn. Did you see the new Spawn Batman crossover?
No.
It was absolute trash.
Was it really?
It was. Oh, it got lit up. It was so bad. So bad. The artwork was okay. The artwork was decent. It was Greg Capullo. The problem is Todd McFarlane inked it. Usually he's a good inker, but it was not a lot of if you're not an inker or have an eye for art, you're not going to be able to tell. But if you have an eye for art, there's not a lot of line depth, line variations. Mostly just medium lines. So it doesn't nothing pops.
Gotcha.
Right? It was quick. It was quick. But
you think he was just being lazy? Or?
I think they didn't have time. And honestly, they had plenty of time. He had plenty of time to write it. Todd wrote the script. I stopped reading it. It was unreadable. I never finished it. I went online to look at some reviews of people that just don't hate everything. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they hated it.
Interesting.
And I'm glad I didn't finish it. I can't get that time back. You know what I mean? I'm glad I didn't finish it. It was so freaking bad.
I remember
and it's not like he hasn't had 20 years to write the second Spawn Batman crossover. You know what I mean?
Right.
So there's no excuse for that.
Yeah.
There's some excuse to get the art done quicker. He's doing a billion things. But the story, no.
That's interesting.
I could have dealt with the art. It's still decent, you know.
Sure.
Greg kind of can't be bad. He can just be flatter than he usually is.
Sure.
But the story was unreadable.
Interesting.
So, yeah, you could love your own character. You could know your own character better than anyone else.
And still write a bad story.
Absolute garbage.
Yeah.
You look at Spawn now, I keep trying because Spawn Todd McFarlane was my idol as an artist. You know,
Right.
I've grown past that, but he was who I wanted to be. So I keep an eye on Spawn. It's nothing like it used to be back in even issues 80 through like 130, let's say. Or maybe even up to 185, because it's around like 320, something like that now.
Right.
He's got like a team. It's like a weird superhero comic book now. I don't even know what it is anymore, to be honest.
Interesting.
So again, it's just even the creator, like you said, you could have a love for it, and it's still garbage.
Yeah, and it actually ties in pretty well with the Ninja Turtles, because you have two guys that started out.
Yep.
Well, you have two guys with the Turtles, and then of course McFarlane being similar in some ways. Like they started out on their own and they did their own thing. And although obviously McFarlane had a lot of success already with Marvel and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but,
McFarlane had his reputation already built up.
Right, he had a reputation before he went off on his own. But these guys, kind of Eastman and Laird kind of grew, I think, kind of disenchanted or tired of it. I mean, they signed off on a lot of stuff too that wasn't any good.
No,
it may not have been
but
theirs.
They wanted to check.
Right. Yeah, of course.
And at some point, if you're Eastman and Laird and your time, ended 30 years ago, you kind of do want to check. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got to eat. So yeah, that looks good.
For sure. And,
give me a producer credit and I'll just shut up.
Right. And of course now neither of them I think have rights overall other than the Mirage Comics, if I remember right. I think because they completely sold out to Nickelodeon, but were a Viacom. I forget who's Paramount's their parent company now.
What about the publishing rights? That's IDW. But does Nickelodeon still go through IDW for publishing? So
I think everything but they can publish under the Mirage label, to the creators. Okay. If I remember right, they have, but they haven't done so since issue 32. I think it's been like 2017 when they published their last issue. But yeah, the IDW stuff is all through Nickelodeon. And,
is it? Okay.
Yeah, all right. As far as I know, that I probably can't speak to the intricacies of it, but even then, I was shocked years back when Kevin Eastman sold his stock in, because I can't imagine as a creator. I can't imagine wanting to sell my babies. Like, you know what I mean? I know that's kind of maybe a cheesy way of looking at it, but it's like,
I get it.
When you're creating these characters, like I can't imagine selling out to them. But then again, like I haven't seen where they've been. They've been on the other side of it. And maybe you're just at a point where it's like, you know what, I can get a huge payday and let someone else run with this. Cause I think you do get burned out. He was describing like, he's not the same guy that was carrying his notebook everywhere anymore and doing sketches. And he just felt it was his time. So it's really interesting, but kind of bringing it full circle. Like I'm sitting here going like, I saw Seth Rogan in like the previews for the Rescue Rangers movie. I thought that was a really dumb concept. Like I don't know if you've seen anything about the rest. I grew up.
No, I know. I mean, yeah, I know what that is, but I didn't know he was doing that even.
Well, I don't know that he was doing it, but he had like a role in it. And when I was watching it, I'm like, this is the most unfunny thing I can possibly imagine. Like, I'm like trying to understand the humor, and I get it was supposed to be dumb, but like there's a clever way to write dumb. And then there's just a dumb way to write dumb. And it was just like the most ridiculous thing. And that movie tried to be like super self-aware. And like,
it doesn't work. You got to be careful with that shit.
Right.
It doesn't work well.
One of them was still animated in 2D style, and one of them was now CGI. And he's like, "Oh, I got the CGI surgery." Or it was like, okay,
whatever. Yeah.
Like, I actually was a fan of the show, so I would have liked to see something that did homage to the actual, like the one character, the older fat rat Monterey, they called him Monty, but it was Monterey Jack.
Yep.
Was essentially like a homeless drug addict for cheese. Like,
really?
Yeah, it was like the most ridiculous thing ever.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, this is
dude, you gotta, like, they're so far removed from society, it's not even funny. Like, these creators are so protected in their bubble, and like in Hollywood, and no one tells them no.
Right.
So it doesn't, like, believe me, I've had some times in my life where I was really lonely, and so I had no feedback on anything.
Sure.
And your ego starts to take over, and anything you do is hilarious and everything. And then you look back like a year later, and you're like, God, I was fucking jackass. Like, why did I write any of that? My God. But these people, imagine doing that when your ego takes over, but then everyone's telling you yes.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Not just you, everyone around you is telling you no, that's gold. Like, it's going to be awful.
Right. And I think like the movie wasn't made, in my opinion, like it wasn't made with like a new generation in mind. It was made to appeal to the parents that remember it.
They remember it, yeah.
And I'm like sitting there going, no, if I want to share the Rescue Rangers with the kids, I want them to know why I liked it, why I was cool growing up. Not this like super meta, like just take on itself where it's like, look, we're pointing out that it was a show. And
see, but you like, and this just goes back into what we'll probably end up talking about is as a producer, as a movie studio, you if you're looking to get money, if you're a money man or woman, you would have to say, no, Seth, no, this isn't working. This is ridiculous. This is not going to bring us in any cash.
Sure.
No one does that anymore.
Right.
No one does. In fact, the worse it is, in fact, even if it's going to be good, they'll have someone say something that irritates people, and it ruins the whole thing. Like, that's one of the reasons I didn't go to see Avatar.
Right.
Number one, it didn't look that good. Number two, a week before it opens, like even, I think it was within the same week as the opening, James Cameron says testosterone's a toxic chemical. And I was done. I barely wanted to see it. It would have been a nice date night for me and the wife. But I'm like, I'm done.
No, I'm well beyond. I'm done with. It's not about putting women down. It's about like we need to stop this idea that men are somehow inferior or that we don't deserve things because there are some bad men out there. There are a lot of bad women out there too, and we can go back and forth on that. That's a whole different topic. But I'm just kind of done with this narrative that, oh, well, you have to deconstruct being a male.
Yeah.
That's not cool.
I think anyone okay. If this was a natural course of human evolution, a natural course of human events, I think this would have been done. I think the argument would have been won. You can debate on which side would have won, but the argument would have been done like the first or second year. It ain't making money. If you want to talk about it, in your private life, fine. But business-wise, this is killing movie studios, comic studios. This is killing music. It's killing everything. But they're still doing it. They're still doing it. And you have to admit at this point, it seems like they're willing to lose money. So money isn't the currency anymore. Money's not the end all be all, guys. That's old. It's done. That's not, you can't look at society and say that money is everything now. I think it's for our attention. I think Avatar was possibly going okay, and they're like, hey, James, you gotta stir the shit. Go say something dumb. And he did. And everyone talked about it for like days. All the major, you nerd-rotic channels and all them, that's all they talked about. And it's like this. It's like in the contract at this point. Hey, go pick. And there's a term for it. I forget what it's like. Rage marketing or something like that. There's an actual term for it nowadays. But even though there's a term for it, the fact is it does hurt business. So there's something more important to these people than business. And I think it's time that people started to think about that and think about what that might be.
It's really an interesting scenario just because, one, I mean, I guess you could also make the James Cameron's so stupid rich at this point. He can say pretty much whatever he wants, and, he can, but
if it was a one-off, I would say that guy is an idiot.
Right.
But when it's everything,
right. No, you're right.
No, it can't.
There is a huge trend of this narrative, and it almost seems like you have to kind of buy into it to be in the game. Like you have to.
Oh, by far.
Even be somebody. Well, I mean, you see what happens when you go against it. Like,
yeah.
I mean, even Chris Pratt, who has been a pretty huge star over the past few years, has gotten some pretty massive hate for acknowledging his faith. And
but is it real?
No,
not his faith. I think his faith is probably real. Oh. When you say massive hate, I look at this differently. Like, from who? I don't think the hate's real. I honestly don't. I think there's always going to be trolls, right? There's always going to be trolls. But they have bot farms now where these these little AI nothings just post, they write, AI writes articles now.
Right.
You know what I mean? AI does art now. So who's yelling at Chris? Who's yelling at poor Chris? I don't know if anyone actually is. I think that's just part of the game. I think it's fake. I think it's attention.
Interesting.
I truly do. I don't think anyone's yelling at Chris. I think he's fine. I think he's just fine. And still making movies, by the way. Still doing Jurassic Park.
He is.
Still doing Disney.
You're
he's doing just fine.
Right.
Maybe part of his contract is, hey, come out as who you are, fine. We're going to type in some words for AI bots to blast on, Entertainment Weekly, and we're going to make it a thing for a few months. Okay.
I think that
sign my check. What do I care?
Concept of rage marketing is really interesting because you're right. That leads to, the headline, Chris Pratt is being torched for, comments made at the...
Yeah, who's torching him?
Right.
Who? No one. No one cares. No one gives a shit. And it's like, there's always going to be a handful that give a shit, but they act like that handful is real.
Right.
And I just don't think it is anymore. I don't think any of it's real.
I think what the end game, I mean, if you're talking like big narratives, like I think it takes years to spoon feed that. Like it has to be repeated for long enough for it to become like accepted kind of thing. And I don't think we've gotten there yet, but I think that's the goal ultimately is this this acceptance of that. And they even make it a moral issue. Like, if you don't accept this, then you are an immoral person. Yeah. And I disagree with that ideology.
Anyone with a kindergarten intelligence level would disagree with that.
Right.
But again, and here's the thing. I have a lot of experience with narcissists. And that's actually part of it. Like that silly argument that if you don't believe this, then you're a racist. They know the argument. They don't believe that. I mean, some of them do because they're idiots. But the people who are writing these scripts for reality, whatever's going on, they don't believe that. They know it's ridiculous, and that's why it works. It's gaslighting. It's narcissistic gaslighting. You're not supposed to believe it. It's ridiculous, but if you don't, you're the bad guy. And everyone's like, oh my God, what the fuck? And it doesn't, it works. It works. You got like 7 or 8 channels that went from, I don't know, 60,000 views to now like 500,000 subscribers in the course of like a year. Nerdrotic, all those guys. Critical Drinker. I watched all those guys during the year that they were building. And now I don't watch them anymore because I know what they're going to talk about. Right. I think at this point they're getting a script. I know what they're going to talk about, and it's the same shit. Okay, how many people would take, let's say, because let's not say a novel, let's say a comic, something easy to read, a little comic. How many of you would read that every day for 7 months? Every day, the exact same script, the exact same comic. Yet, when you turn on Nerdrotic, and nothing against them, they're doing what they're doing. I'm just saying, this is how I see it. When you turn them on every day for the past 6 months, it's the same show over and over and over again. The same show. Why the Rings of Power was so awful. Why this sucked. This sucked. This sucked. And they're right that it sucks, but it's the same show.
Right.
You're not, if you watch one and 2 weeks later you watch another one, you didn't miss anything.
Right.
What is going on?
Yeah. Well, and actually that brings up another point we kind of were talking about before the show, is that because we were trying to figure, like, we were talking about, I recently for the first time read The Last Ronin. And one thing you guys will learn about me, I am not usually up to date on anything unless it's like an obsession. Like I have a deep love for Ninja Turtles, but Godzilla, you know exactly what's going on. Right, exactly. I will always know what's going on with Godzilla and like giant monster movies. I will usually have a pretty good understanding of a lot of different fandoms, but like I don't have time to like read everything or watch everything, even if it's something I'm into. But I saw a lot of hype behind The Last Ronin. I decided to give it a read. We're not going to talk about it today because I want Ron to read it.
Yeah, I'm going to read it this week.
I fell in love with it. I was afraid at first that it was just kind of an edgy, like, you know, being edgy for edge's sake, you know, kind of take on it. But after just reading it, really loved this book. But we were talking about, why is that so hard anymore? There's so much fan service out there. We like almost every fandom is getting content. They're getting what they want. And like, I have a hard time wrapping my mind around, like, why is so little of it good anymore? Like, we're getting quantity over quality now. And it's like, it's tough because we grew up in an era where sometimes you had to wait years to get something.
Oh, dude, that's why, like, I mean, and I do have OCD. I do have obsessive compulsive disorder, but it kept me from being bored during those lonely times. So I don't really mind so much. When it became debilitating, I had to do something. But that's why, like, I trained myself to just watch things over and over and over again, because I'm 46 years old. As a kid, it was a long time before you got anything else. Like, when you watched a cartoon and it was reruns, you didn't get to go on the internet and just stream whatever you wanted to take. Like, you either watched the reruns or you waited 6 months.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, it's exactly
You didn't have the VHS. You had nothing. And then when VHSs came out, Batman. I've seen Michael Keaton's Batman over probably 300 times because there wasn't another Batman. That was all I had.
Right.
Until the next one came out. Hopefully that was good. And then there was no Superman. You know, like for a good 5 years, there was only Batman.
Right.
That was it. And then pretty much Spider-Man. You know, Marvel with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man kind of started to break that. Then you had Spider-Man and maybe an X-Men here and there. Even at that point, it wasn't like, it was nothing like, if you guys are younger, man, it was nothing like it is now.
Right.
You have your choice of anything you want, old and new. different actors, different directors, different genres. Like there's how many different genres of Batman movies? You know what I mean? Different styles of filmmaking in just Batman itself. You have your choice of what one you like most. And for the most part, it's awful. It's awful.
It's really interesting to me because we're getting all this stuff, and maybe we're just becoming like harder to please, but I don't really think that's the case.
I think about that too, man. I do. I don't, that cranky old person.
Right.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
But really, like, when you look at it and you're just like, why, you start to question, like, why are they making the choices that they're making? For me, I'll bring up a couple of recent examples from Godzilla, and it's almost sacrilege to me to hate on I'll say Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich kind of broke the ice on this back in 98, but like, it hurts, especially to pick on something Godzilla coming out of Japan, but the animes that they've done, which I was really looking forward to, I thought were pretty god awful across the board. Like, I was sitting here,
couldn't watch the second one.
Like,
I watched the computer animation, the CGI one, the regular animated one, which may have been still CGI, but it looked like regular animation with a weird looking Godzilla.
Yeah,
I watched I just see if I wanted to watch it. I watched the intro. I fast forwarded and like to see if there was anything cool I could see.
Right.
Oh, I don't like this. I didn't watch any of it.
It wasn't even the art style, because I respected they went for like kind of more of an old school like animated
anime.
Look.
Yeah.
And
the style's fine, but
it just like I couldn't stand what they were doing with it. Like,
at some point, you're like, this isn't Godzilla. They should have just called this something else, and maybe it would have been more popular.
I agree. And that was Singular Point we're talking about. Godzilla Singular Point.
Yeah.
It was, they were saying, oh, it's Rodan, and it was a pterodactyl, and there's a whole flock of them. It's like, that's not. I get that Rodan was originally billed in the old film as a dinosaur, or pterodactyl, and at the same time, people knew
Godzilla is a T-Rex with spikes,
right?
You know what I mean?
I get that, but like, Godzilla's way bigger, there's things that make him unique.
Oh, absolutely.
And Rodan is a really cool monster that they just kind of. I think they did him dirty, and I don't care for. Anguirus, the same thing. You have a fan favorite kaiju that was just presented as kind of a big dino, and a vehicle took him out, and it just wasn't fun. Like, this isn't what we enjoy about the genre, or at least from my perspective. And my son, who's 16, I brought him up with kaiju movies and things like that. He felt largely the same way. It's like, this isn't like what we're looking for. And just to kind of emphasize the point that it's not just like anything new that we hate. Like, we actually really enjoyed Pacific Rim: The Black. Yeah. And we did not enjoy the sequel to Pacific Rim, the Uprising movie. Yeah. Like, that was complete trash. But
I still never saw that.
Yeah.
I never saw the side. I've seen the action parts, but I've never seen it's not worth. I mean, I already know. I know it's not worth seeing, so I'm not going to waste my time.
That movie broke my heart so bad, because I love
the first one was amazing.
The first one was amazing. I love the world that they built with it, and just I wanted to know more. And I think Pacific Rim: The Black is really the sequel that we needed or deserved, as it were. I hope they do a second season of it, because it was just so cool. And just so well done as an anime compared to the Godzilla film. So it was very, very disappointing to see. But like I said, it feels like every time something new comes out, they have to put their own stamp on it.
Yeah.
And it's like, stop it.
It's narcissist.
Like, right. Stop trying to, like, there are so many stories that can be told with Godzilla that you don't need. And I'll even pick on Shin Godzilla a little bit. Like, you don't need creatures crawling out of his tail.
Yeah.
Like, that's weird.
Yeah.
Okay, and I love that movie. I think it was overall a good movie. I don't need the weird crap. I don't need purple back lasers. I don't need,
See, again, it wasn't Godzilla. I won't watch it. I tried. I did some fast forwarding, you know what I mean? Just to see if I liked the Godzilla scenes. If I like that, I'll watch the movie. I'm like, this isn't Godzilla. Just call it something else. I don't know what. It's kind of gross to look at, too. Like,
there was some moments where I felt, one, I really like the human plot in that movie. I will say that. Like, they did a good job. I really liked there was a lot of mirroring of the Fukushima reactor, like the bureaucracy that made it impossible for Japan to act. Those types of things. They get into a lot of really deep social issues in there, and I thought it was really cool. They touch on, like, well, how long does Japan have to pay for, World War II? Like, should they rearm themselves? Like, because that's a topic that's, still being discussed over there. They kind of touch on this idea of, seniority and honor and having this, age-based, system of merit rather than, well, I should say, system rather than a merit-based system where men are simply gifted things based on, age and tenure and rather than actual skill. So it touched on. It's like
that anywhere, though.
Yeah. Well,
it's literally like that. Like, in America, it's gender. In Japan, it's age. In whatever. In third world countries, it's basically how big you are. If you're the biggest guy in the block, that's it. That's all that takes.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I mean, which I honestly, to tell you the truth, I wouldn't want to live in that society. Right. Because I mean, I can take care of myself, but I'm not the biggest guy in the block. You know what I mean? However, there is something more real about that. To be honest, there is something more that seems more realistic than any other concept, survival of the fittest type thing. You know what I mean? Even though I don't really believe in evolution to that extent, but to be, if shit hit the fan, if it became Mad Max and you're storing food, you're basically storing it for the biggest person on the block. There's not much, if you don't have weapons, there's not much you can do once that gang comes knocking. So
yeah, and
there's something very visceral and real about that concept.
Right. But even so, I think it made a really compelling narrative. And I even think Godzilla, like, I liked some of the things they did with it, but they made him really weird. And it's like, he doesn't have to be really weird to be interesting.
He was honestly disgusting. I did not, it really did gross me out. A lot of the bulging eyes and the red, it looked like he was just slashed with a razor. It was just, ugh.
I liked some of it because it did give you an uneasy feeling. But again, it just got really bizarre, and it's like, why was this necessary to make him look really cool? There are so many cool unused Godzilla designs out there.
Dude, the fan art's unbelievable.
Like, not even, and if you go one step further, like, I'm trying to remember some of the, there's a particular sculpt that I've seen that is just amazing. It's going to slip my mind. Honeybone maybe did. I can't remember. It's something to that effect, but it was an amazing sculpt of him that I've seen. Like, there's so many of them out there that are just really cool takes on a traditional Godzilla design. And, I don't feel like we have to go in super strange directions.
No, and I think it seems to me like I have the feeling they learned. You know what I mean? I don't know if they did another Japanese one, which is coming, you said. There's a Japanese one coming.
There is a Japanese one.
It's not going to be like that.
I would hope not. I don't think so. They're not doing it as a sequel. I don't know. The one we were talking about, Shin Godzilla, it made money. It made stupid money. Actually.
Did it really?
Yeah, it's the most successful Japanese Godzilla movie in quite some time. Wow! But I think that had to do with the quality of the film that was made.
The story, the overall film.
The overall story was good. Most of the Millennium era, which I love, I think was overall underwhelming in terms of story and acting, and there's just lots of stuff that was not. It felt more low budget.
Yeah,
and they are to some.
They always are. Yeah,
to some extent. But I really liked, like, in the 90s, the Heisei era. There was a couple weaker entries, but I liked the storytelling in them. The effects were cool. Godzilla felt big and like powerful and menacing and all those things. And the Millennium era, even some of the better ones in it just fell sort of flat in terms of acting and things like that, I guess, for me, or a little bit flatter. So I think it was the quality of the actors that they had. The cinematography was really well done. And then, of course, you had Godzilla, but I think that was more of a testament to the success rather than
overall film. The overall film.
The overall film, yeah. And so
how did we get talking about that?
Well, I think it's talking about, like, the overall oversaturation of
there you go
fandom content. Okay. But
See,
how
again,
so much of it is not.
I bring it. Listen, and here's the thing, and here's a point to where we're not getting old. We're not. It's not because we're getting old and cranky, because DC will put out a film or a live action film, garbage. I hate it.
Right.
They'll put out 2 animations that year that I love.
Right.
So both things are new, but 2 are amazing and 1 is garbage.
Right.
And it's like, what is going? Why can't their animation studio just take over their live action studio? Because they're the only people that know what to do.
Yeah.
For the most part,
it's
rarely a bad animation. And to the point where I would say most of their animated movies are stupid good. Like, really good. You know what I mean?
I think there's some stuff in The Killing Joke that irritated me that they added.
That was ridiculous. Yeah, I won't even watch that one.
Right. Yeah. Like, that one was odd.
Yeah, that was weird.
And
they've done a lot since then, and they never did that again.
But you're right. Even going back to, like, Superman and Shazam, like Return of Black Adam, that was awesome.
Dude, that was amazing.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite animations.
Yep.
Like, just so good. And even, we were talking about The Last Ronin. Like, over the past several years, like, I hated the first Michael Bay Turtles film.
Right.
I thought it was complete trash.
Right.
I hated the way the turtles looked in it. I thought
it's funny because I'm one of the few people that like the way the turtles looked. I know.
It.
I liked the way they looked in it. The movie was very strange. It felt like it was 2 different movies because I liked a lot of it, and then just like me and you talked about, like, there were plot holes that looked like there's no way they didn't know they were there. They just didn't have time to fix them.
Right.
Because they went in, they made changes, and then they're like, oh, wait, this doesn't make sense anymore. Too late, we got a week left, finish the special effects, we're done. And that had to have happened. There's no way with that. The basic script was a turtle movie. It was a basic script turtle movie. But the plot holes were like, those had to be written at different times.
Yeah.
Because it didn't make sense.
It just wasn't, like, I was sitting there, I wanted to even give it a shot and like it, despite how, like, one, never give the turtles nostrils like that ever again.
I know you didn't like their faces.
Oh my goodness.
A lot of them.
Like,
everyone's gripe. They didn't like the way they looked. I was okay with it. I really was.
I don't mind a grittier look on them. The Last Ronin, I think, does that very well. But I mean, I could not get over how and I guess originally Bay wanted them to be aliens in that one.
This is a huge problem, and that's the thing. That's how you know, like, that there were multiple scripts written, there were edits, reshoots, and they did what they just put together, what they had,
and it just didn't work.
No.
So I really disliked although the second one they tried to. Here's the problem: like, when you have something that just fails that miserably on something, like, you can't fix it with a sequel. Because you're just, even if the sequel like was, I think, much improved. They put in Bebop and Rocksteady, and they looked just like you'd imagine.
Yep.
But all that did was make me sit there and go, "Wow, this would be really cool if the turtles actually looked like the turtles."
If you don't like the look of the turtles, it's like me with Shin Godzilla. If I don't like Godzilla, I can't watch it. I don't care how good the movie is.
Right.
And the fact that the movie wasn't that good for Turtles, you had no reason to watch it.
Right.
You know
what I mean? It was just a failure all around. But it just feels like so many of these things now is trending in this direction of, mediocre, subpar. Like,
but I'm telling you, okay. So listen, guys, this is what I think is going on. I think there's some sort of a tax scam going on. I truly do. And it made me. The reason why I think that is because I was talking to a guy I know who's trying to move his store, and the rent where we live that they're asking would be like for corporate America, like if some large brand name, which is what our small city is looking for, but we don't have the clientele. So we want the big names to come in, but we don't have enough people to bring them in. It's very frustrating. So he's got his just little furniture store. It's just him. It's not a brand name. He's looking to move. And he's looking at certain spots, and the rent is astronomical, but it's sitting there empty. And he's like, so how, like, wouldn't you rather cut the rent a little bit and make some money? And the owner of the complex said, I'll make more money as a tax write-off than I will if I charge you less rent. And I said, holy shit, there is something there. There is something there that's going on with these movies. Now, there's multiple reasons why I think these movies are being done. First of all, I don't think money is the issue anymore. If you believe in currency and the inflation bubble that was supposed to pop 15 different times, I'm sorry. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. They print money. Money's meaningless. It's always there for whoever needs it. It's meaningless. The bubble's always there. It's not going away. It's not going to pop because it's not supposed to pop. Every 5 years, they scream about the bubble popping. Every 5 years. In between those 5 years, they talk about it. But then every 5 years, they want to scare you, and then you go out and buy more groceries or some hunting supplies, and nothing happens. So there's something with this tax thing. I think the studios are still, you're like, well, they can't be making money. No, they're failing, but somehow they're still making money. I do believe there's off-book money coming in, but I believe that there is some sort of freaking tax scam going on where they can write off shit and still somehow, with the way they write their contracts, still make a killing. No one's taking a pay cut. Movies aren't less expensive to make. The cost of movies are still the same. No one's taking a pay cut. It's like sports. It's like sports during COVID. Why there wasn't not one sports organization or team that I've heard of, or that even made the headlines in a big way, let's say, where they said, guys, we're not letting the fans in the stadium. I can't make payroll. Like, I can't pay you guys if we don't let fans in the stadium. But no one took a pay cut. No, they were still signing huge contracts for like long-term 7-10-year contracts when the jab didn't even come out yet to let people in the stadium, show us your papers. Show us your papers, you can come watch a football game. But nothing happened. No one went out of business. Mom and pop stores went out of business. But none of the sports teams had to take a cut. There's money coming in that we don't know about, but I truly believe that these things are written for failure. They're written for success, and they're written for failure. They don't need the money, guys. So, obviously, DC is not DC as a company because their animation studio is amazing. Their comic books are garbage. Their movies are garbage. They hire people that fire Henry Cavill and then keep on a pedophile groomer. Why are they doing this? It's not for the money. It's to give people shit to talk about. Money is currency. I'm sorry. Money is not currency anymore. Our attention is currency. And if you take anything out of the ramblings of me and Matt, please remember that this is my theory. I'm not going to throw this on Matt, all right? So if you want to yell at someone, yell at me. I could care less. Our attention is what matters. I think I don't think it's ever going to get better. I don't think it's designed to get better. I think they're going to crash this until Judgment Day with whatever religious way you believe that's going to happen. I think it's not coming back. And all they want is for people to just not focus on, hey, life is so much worse than it used to be. And that's it.
I think it's really
entertainment. Entertainment, It's just like back in Rome where they had the gladiator pits, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's just football.
Are you not entertained?
Are you not? Yeah. It's just football. It's just to please the masses while everything else crumbles around them. This is not a new concept, guys. This is as old as time.
Oh, right.
Most people are sheep. Most people can't think their way into tying their own shoes. Like we have a president, whether you like him or not. I could care less. But when he's on stage, he doesn't know where he is. This is a joke. This is a joke, and it's falling apart. But because they're crazy and because they're narcissists, instead of making entertainment to enjoy while everything's falling apart, I think it's hilarious to them that they're making entertainment that pisses you off. I think it's all gaslighting.
Interesting.
I truly think it's all gaslighting.
I think, I guess kind of going back to where we started again, if that's the case, then Seth Rogan is doing a fantastic job.
Right? Why wouldn't you put Seth Rogan as the head of something like this? It's something he probably would like to do because he does have that childish quality to him. You know, he does like honestly, I actually liked his what was it? It was the one that Bruce Lee did back in the 60s and 70s, the Green Hornet.
Okay.
That was actually a decent film. That was really funny. It was charming, it was funny, it was older Seth Rogen, right?
Right.
He likes this comic book fandom stuff. He does.
Sure.
I get that. But at some point, he's just spent too much time in Hollywood. He's just gotten too weird. So I guarantee there's going to be some weird, like April O'Neil is going to make out with some other news girl. Like there's going to be something in there, dude. It's not going to be okay.
I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens with it. I'm just looking down through like a bunch of his stuff, and I'm like trying to see something that I actually like.
Either Splinter's going to wear a dress, or April O'Neil is going to be a lesbian. It's part of the and here's, you know what's even better? This is even better. This is even funnier to them. If it is good, let's say they made it normal, because they can do that. The Batman was normal. It was one of the best movies I've seen in a long time. They're going to ruin the next one. So they're going to get you to love it. They're going to get you to be like, oh, finally, this is what we wanted. This makes me feel good. I can count on this. And then the next one, they're going to just flop it. Just like the Joker, the next one's going to be a musical with Lady Gaga. I don't want it. I don't care about it. It's on purpose. So they'll get you to love it. They'll put one out to grab you because they know that we're starving for this stuff. We love it. We're drooling for something that we love just to hold on to, and they'll give you one, and then they'll ruin it later.
I am sitting here. Apparently, he did this Invincible series, which I've heard some really interesting things about. But
that was a really popular comic.
Yeah. Oh no, he's getting Darkwing Duck. No, they're actually giving him Dark. No, yeah, he's going to ruin that too.
Yeah.
So apparently he's an executive producer on a new Darkwing Duck. But I'm looking at these and I'm trying to find something that I actually like. Now, I haven't, admittedly, I haven't seen, I didn't know he was involved with The Boys, but everything I've seen regarding that is...
The Boys, I watched, I think, 2 episodes, and I shut it off. It was more just for shock value.
Right. Like, to me, it was just, and that's what I was afraid, again, guys, not realizing that this was, Eastman and Laird's baby. Going into it, though, I assumed The Last Ronin was edge for edge's sake.
Yeah. That's what The Boys is. Yeah.
And that's what I feel about The Boys. I think
but that's what Game of Thrones is. That's what they all are. And I tell you what,
right?
Even people that you would think, like, I have a few friends that love Game of Thrones, and I'm like, why? It's just, and they're like, oh, the story's so good, it's so good, and I'm like, I just don't see it. I just don't, because within whatever good story there is, it's just shocking sexual stuff, and it's like everyone's naked and. South Park,
right?
Floppy wieners.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? South Park did a great job. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I don't know how South Park is still in business. I think it's just
They're not the same.
They're not the same.
It's not the same
but like it's still very popular. They just signed a ridiculous contract like a year or two ago.
Because very
lucrative.
This is what most likely, I can say this most likely happened.
Sure.
They were going to go out. And they were like, listen, you either start doing it this way or you're done. And they probably said, okay, we'll make it work to where it's not shockingly different, but it is different. I can't watch the newer episodes. I just don't like them.
I haven't seen it in quite some time, but I like what I remember. Well, I don't know how they could, because the whole novelty, when I was growing up, the novelty of South Park was, it was incredibly, it was shocking. It was vulgar. It was like, like they did that?
Yeah.
And now that's everything.
That's everything.
I don't care. Like it's the laziest thing ever. And actually, I think before I really stopped watching South Park, I had my own like personal convictions about that. But even then, like they were becoming much more clever as writers, and it was much more.
Some of the writing that I've seen. I mean, because me and Brittany still watch it. Like every night, that's what we fall asleep to is South Park.
Yeah.
All right. So there are episodes where, and I've seen it multiple times, and I'm still in awe of how fucking smart the writing was.
Right.
Unbelievably layered irony.
Yes.
It's just unbelievable. Dude.
Yes. I mean, so. And that was even why I remember years and years ago now they made fun of Family Guy.
Yeah.
And that's why I can never stand Family Guy, because it's like it's just stupid jokes.
I'm still a family. I can't watch it anymore, but the old ones I still do.
Right. I couldn't get into it.
Past season like 11 or 12, I can't watch it anymore. It got ridiculous. But I know. And it's one of those things like, so it became Simpsons or Family Guy. Then it became Simpsons, Family Guy, or South Park. And then it seemed like Simpsons and South Park you could kind of go with, but you wouldn't like Family Guy. You know what I mean? Like it was a weird
there was
tribal
kind of
thing.
A war.
It's a tribal thing.
But really it was, though, like a matter of like you could there was a point where you could still feel intelligent while watching South Park. Like, you know, and I just wonder, like, it's like, man, I don't know how they're even. And you may be right, Bob. I thought to myself, it's like, how is that show even still going? Because like they took what made it, like I said, made it a novelty, and that to me is really interesting. But I remember a few years back, someone I knew like was super into like Sons of Anarchy, and it was just. I mean, I heard so many good things about the show, and it was just, it was just brutality and sex and
Sopranos, Sons of Anarchy, all of it. I can't. It's Russell Crowe. Are you not entertained? It really is, and I can't, dude. Like, okay, so look at the movies that come out now. And I was thinking about this yesterday. I don't know why, but when was the last time a genuinely funny, overall loved comedy movie hit the theaters?
Yeah, I don't
know. Step Brothers, like something. I mean, most people liked it. It became almost an instant classic. You know, Superbad, 40-Year-Old Virgin. When was the last time, even just a comedy, not romantic comedy? Just a comedy came out in the theaters. I can't remember.
Like, I can't.
It's kind of creepy. That's weird, man.
Well, right, because I think, I think comedy overall has suffered because you can't joke about anything.
Maybe that's why.
I mean, look what happened. And not to get, I mean, you look at what happened with Chris Rock. He made a joke. Yes, it is. Okay, let's put vanity aside. Like, at some point we have to be able to laugh at ourselves a little bit, and I understand. Like, well, yeah, of course it is.
That's racist.
But like, what he said it was a funny joke. I get it was made at someone's expense, but roasts are not a new thing in Hollywood.
No, that's stupid.
And for that to become what it was, like they've murdered comedy. Like,
you know why? You know why? I'm telling you. And I swear to God, this is, and it's trauma. It's trauma. Everyone, it's one of those things. Okay, this has been historically and I learned this from old Jordan Peterson. I still love old Jordan Peterson. The comedian has historically been the only person in the kingdom that was really allowed to say the truth, that everyone knew, but really only he was allowed to say it, right?
Right.
And it was like a vent for people. Like, okay, it's not just me. This is funny, or that person really is that bad. Ha ha ha. Comedy has always served that purpose. Comedians are a vent for society. I'm telling you, and it was a really, really important job because I truly believe that canceling comedy had a traumatic effect. Because not only now are you're not sure what to think about something because there's no, okay, so on your own, you're not sure what to think about something because everyone's afraid to talk about it. All right. So you don't talk about it. So you're not sure of how you feel is right or not. And then if you do talk about it, you're extremely punished. But most people actually have that view. Right. So while Chris Rock is punished, everyone who's sensitive to that stuff would say, oh, wait, maybe that was bad. Or if you're not sensitive to it, now you're pissed off. So you're either sad or angry, and over something as commonly known as the sky is blue. You're not allowed to trust your own eyes. I truly think it's trauma programming.
Yeah, I definitely think there's something to what you're saying though about comedies, and I'll be honest, I don't even like half the ones that like were popular 10, 15 years ago. Like I
never liked the Hangovers. I don't like those.
I can't stand. I'm not a Will Ferrell fan. I like him okay in Elf.
I still love Will Ferrell.
I cannot stand Will Ferrell.
So he was on Epstein's flight list.
Boy.
Yeah, he was on that. A lot of people were, but doesn't mean everyone did everything. But he was.
Sure.
And now it's just like it's hard for me to watch anything now. Like
right.
I can't fucking enjoy anything now because it's Hollywood.
Well, yeah. I mean,
I know what they're doing, and if you're not doing look at Ezra Miller.
Right.
He gets lauded for what he's doing, and Henry Cavill, who just wants to play Superman as a nice, hopeful character. No, you're out.
Yeah.
Made by a decision maker who held, I talked about before, who held pedophile parties. Adults dressed like priests and girls dressed like little babies in their onesies with bottles. Photos that he published, guys. He published those. I didn't have to find them. Those were like Instagram. You know what I mean? That's his humor. That wasn't a private stash that they had to dig up during the Me Too movement. That was like on Instagram. That was public. So again, the head of the studio, who's that type of person, keeps on Ezra Miller, who's that type of person, and gets rid of Henry Cavill, who everyone loved. Why? What? There's only one reason. It's not for money. It's for attention. It's trauma programming. It's narcissistic gaslighting.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Because I just saw the Ezra Miller thing today, and I'm sitting there going, why? Like, what? How can you? Okay, you have Gina Carano removed from Star Wars.
Yep.
Because she made, and I'm not saying I necessarily agree with the comparison. I think comparing things to Nazi Germany has been overdone.
I think it's meaningless at this point.
Right, it really is meaningless at this point. But like, so I'm not even saying I necessarily agree with the analogy. But you have someone that is outspoken with a non-mainstream, at least as far as the media is concerned.
Yeah, media is concerned.
A more conservative view, and they're exiled. Mm. And granted, she doubled down on that, and good for her. Like, yeah, sure. I respect, the stance. But then you have this other person. It's like, okay, well, he's been pretty good for 6 months, so we're just gonna there's no real consequences for it.
It's over. It's I'm telling you, it's all over.
Right.
And that's why even if it's something I like, let's say a new Captain America movie was going to be made, right?
Okay.
I just don't care anymore. I truly just don't care anymore. It did, like, what's the old stuff is still mine. You can't take away what I already love before it was ruined, right? The pre-ruined era of all the stuff that we love, that's still ours.
Right.
Anything, but just because it's called Captain America, it's just not my world anymore. It's not my character. It's meant to not be my Captain America anymore. And I know that. So why would I give you my money?
So maybe we could, because we're a little bit over time.
Yeah.
Maybe we could wrap these things up in some final thoughts. So we've talked about like just oversaturation of content, and it's very mediocre. I think it underlines the idea that the things that most people are buying into. Oh, I love this. I'm not sure if they really love this now, or if it's just. And I'll use an example. We talked recently. There was like a lot of crossovers with like Power Rangers and comics and things like that, and I think that while some of them were fun, I think they were only fun and readable because of the IPs that were in them. And that, like that comic, if that was not...
You have to... So, like, I'm not a Power Ranger fan, but I'm a Godzilla fan.
Sure.
So I'm reading it, and I'm like, this is a lot of fun. It makes me smile. It makes me feel like a kid.
Okay.
But I think if this is where you're going, I don't think if you didn't like either of those things, that those stories would grab new readers.
Right.
Is that where you're going?
Yeah,
okay.
That's kind of where I'm going with that. And I wonder, like, you know, what is it that's new that we actually like are falling in love with? And there's very little
nothing
new, and most of it is this cheaply made, I shouldn't say cheaply, but like you have these homages. Everything's nostalgia, and I buy into it too because I share it with my children. But I'm sitting here going, I don't know that I actually love a lot of the new stuff. I think I love it because of what it used to be.
That's what it is.
Or what it was.
What you hope. It's if it's even close to what it used to be, if it's even close, you will love it.
Right.
If you haven't read it or seen it yet, you love it because you're hopeful that it will be what you used to remember.
Right.
And you know what? It's fucking traumatic.
Yeah, I remember.
I'm telling you, this nostalgia thing is, and this is the first time that I've actually thought of this sitting right here. I'm a big nostalgia guy.
Sure.
I honestly think it's pretty fucking traumatic because there are times where I could fucking cry because I'm legit tears. I'm not just saying that because I miss how great things used to be. And I personally have an inner feeling that it will never be that way again because it's not supposed to be that way again. I don't think it will be allowed to be that way again. And it really hurts. And it's really traumatic. It really is. And what would you, if you're a narcissistic psychopath and you have the power to create these things, these IPs, and put them out to the masses, and you want to hurt, what would you do? You would take something that's beloved and you would ruin it in front of everyone's eyes. And you would tell them, you will get this. You would tell them, if you don't like it, it's your fault.
Right. Yeah, no, I get that.
You cannot argue with what I just said. No one can. That's just the way it's being done. Whether you like it or not, that's fine. But objectively speaking, that's the game plan. There's no argument there. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's what a narcissist would do.
Yeah.
Any psychologist would agree with me.
I think that's a really interesting take. So where does that leave us? Like, what are we trying to... I think at the end of the day, like, whatever happens with our stuff and what we're going to put out, like, at the end of the day, I hope that we're able to share something that makes a few people smile or say, wow, that was really cool.
And I think that's what every indie creator right now is trying to do. And I think it's a great thing. I do think it's a great thing. I think if there's happiness to be found, it's going to be in indie books. And there's a lot more selection out there. There's a lot more, because of Kickstarters and all these ways to finance yourself, there's a lot more professionals doing professional gigs, let's say for DC, but then on the side, still doing something for Kickstarter, still doing their own thing. So it's not like when you go to indie you're buying into less quality anymore, which historically has been that way. You might get an indie book for the story, but the artwork is not going to be the best. Historically, that's usually how it is.
Right.
But now you've got pros doing indie books. And I think that's where, because indie people don't have a tax scam. They don't have as many corporate loopholes as the big guys.
They're still a tax scam, but they're on the losing.
Yeah, they're on the losing. Yeah, so it's either indie people are probably the only creators out there that truly do need your dollar, and if you don't buy it, they don't eat. Right. And I truly think that this is where it's going to be. If you're going to find that nostalgia, it can be in something new that will give you the same feeling that you had as a kid. It'll remind you of something old, like giant kaiju books, like ours is going to be, you know?
Yeah.
That's what Pacific Rim did to me. Pacific Rim gave me a new giant monster thing.
Right.
And I'm sitting there smiling in my mid-30s like I'm 5.
Right.
I fucking loved it, dude.
And I think ours does that in a way that's just super cool. I think we've done some things that people haven't seen yet.
But like Shin Godzilla, it's not about the monsters. It's really about the story. It's about
right.
the world.
The world was more interesting than Godzilla was in it.
Yeah.
Godzilla, there was a couple really cool moments with him.
Yeah.
I love the destruction scene when he absolutely goes like nuclear for the first time and just devastates that city. Loved it. But you're right. He was not the interesting part of that film. It was the people.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing,
no.
but you should have both. You should have both.
Yep.
And a great Godzilla
And I
film.
think our book is going to have that.
I think so,
and
too.
I think, you know what? Ending this one, talking about our book, I think it would be the perfect way to end it and to start introducing what we're going to do on the next podcast.
Yeah.
Which we haven't done yet.
No.
I think it's time.
So what do we want to say about it? Are we discussing plot? What are we introducing here?
So that you can have your notes, because you're the writer. Okay. So that you know what we're going to talk about. Let's introduce the characters and the basic plot, the world. Let's introduce the world. Okay.
So I wrote a character.
Oh wait, no. Next time.
We're
going to end here. This is a great place to end.
Yes.
And the next podcast will be about our future.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, that's cool. Yeah, let's do that. All right. So thank you all for listening and sticking it out with us. We hope, we get off on some tangents, but we appreciate you listening.
Yeah.
And
an hour and 12 ain't bad for us.
No, it's not.
It's not bad
for us.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, and we will catch you next time.